Thank you for joining me, Derek. It's amazing to see you. Oh, I'm having things falling down here. Okay, well, hopefully that'll work. Okay, not the smoothest beginning, but we're good. So welcome, everyone, and I'm so pleased to present my guest today, the Executive Director of Conservatory Canada, none other than Derek Oger. We pronounce it the French way, right?
Yeah, we do, yes.
Yes, okay.
Thanks,
Otherwise,
Sandra. It's great to be here with you and figure out how to use Instagram on my iPad. This is great.
perfect. Now the sky's the limit
Yes.
for your life.
I'm fully in the 21st century now.
Yeah, it's fine. It sometimes takes a couple decades.
Yeah,
No.
it has.
No, you're very forward thinking, and we are going to get into all of that in a moment. But maybe first, let's just, for people who might not know you and Conservatory Canada, tell us where you're from, your training, your background, your influences.
Yeah, that's broad. Okay. I'm going to try and keep it to music. How's that?
Sure. The story of Derek, basically, is what we want to know.
Yeah, so I'm in Thunder Bay, Ontario, which is on the northwest shore of Lake Superior, kind of where east meets west in Canada, which is an exciting place to be. You know, we're very isolated from things, though. We have our nearest Canadian city is Winnipeg, 8 hours west. Our nearest Canadian city east is Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, which is 8 hours east.
Holy.
I'm 6 hours north of Minneapolis, which is perhaps our closest metropolitan area, which is exciting when you can get across the border. Right now, not so possible. But anyway, so I'm kind of isolated. I've been here my whole life, but I've traveled and, you know, except for the last 2 years, taken lots of time to travel out and get as much outside influence as I can. Musically, I was educated here in Thunder Bay at Lakehead University and did an undergrad degree here at Lakehead. My teacher there was Heather Morrison. A lot of you may know of Heather Morrison. I'm sure you do, Sandra. You've come
We studied with the same teacher, Heather and I. Yeah, so we're all related, Derek.
We have the same lineage. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah.
And she used to talk about that lineage a lot. Damiana Bratus, I'm assuming.
Yes, exactly.
Western, yeah.
Dr. B.
Yeah. So, yeah, part of that lineage and taking lessons with her for years at university, that was very exciting. And she really motivated me at a time when I was ready to be motivated. And I was sort of a late bloomer in that respect, you know, in terms of becoming a pianist. I didn't really get serious about that until my 20s, my early to mid 20s. And, you know, spent a lot of time even after my undergrad taking lessons from Peter Longworth in Toronto, who was the late Peter Longworth now, and so he was really good with me too to bring me into the performance realm and get me excited about looking at different types of music differently and passing on his lineage, which was really good. So those are my two main influences. I studied with a few other people,
Cool.
Summer camps and things like that on the side, and really spend a lot of time, I guess, coming out of university playing new music. And so I am still part of a group called New Music North here in Thunder Bay that works to premiere music by living composers and put on new music concerts. We haven't been able to, of course, for the last couple of years, but that was sort of, that has formed my sort of, musical background and giving me lots of performance experience working with choirs, as you have as well. I know that's where you and I have crossed paths before, not on a personal level, but I've always known of you, seeing you at choir festivals years ago too, children's choir festivals.
Back in the day when my kids were in children's choir.
Yeah,
that's what I did. Yeah, it was a good way to keep an eye on them. Just get a gig playing for choirs, and then we could do it all together.
Yeah. And so then coming out of that sort of training and doing a lot of performance, in the late 90s, early 2000s, then I started doing examining for Conservatory Canada in 2003. By 2004, I was doing workshops for them, traveling across the country, running mock exam workshops and things like that, other pedagogical things.
Okay.
And then in 2009, I guess it was, or no, maybe it was even 2010, 2011, started running summer music camps for them. We called the Cool Keys camps. And there we'd get groups of kids in large spaces with a dozen keyboards and teach them how to do recreational music making.
Wow.
Huge in the US.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun. We did that for a number of years, and then this job as executive director came up, and I jumped on it. I was like, something that was neat to do, and I've been doing that since 2014 now. So I'm on year 8.
Wow. Already.
To run the conservatory and keep modernizing it. I know, we owe, I think, a great deal of debt to the former executive director, Victoria Warwick, who did a lot of really neat, interesting things in the early 2000s in through 2014 in terms of e-exams and the contemporary idioms piano syllabus, contemporary idioms voice syllabus, and guitar syllabi, really modernizing the conservatory. And so I've been just trying to pick up where she left off and continue that trend. And now we're breaking into things like exposing and promoting music by women composers and BIPOC composers, which is really exciting for me.
Well, it's game changing in the world of Canadian music teaching and exams and festivals and everything. So, how old is Conservatory Canada? Do you know about its history? Like, how did it come into being, or when? Or...
Yeah, this goes back a long way. I mean, of course, at the time, everyone knows Royal Conservatory of Music in Toronto, and really at the same time, our roots go back to 1891. There was a parallel movement in London, Ontario.
That long?
Back, a 2-hour drive nowadays, back then, was a world away in some ways, I'm sure.
Right.
1891, the London Conservatory of Music was formed, and we're giving lessons in the London area. They quickly built an exam structure from what we understand in the archives. By 1934, that had become the Western Ontario Conservatory of Music, and they were affiliated with the school, the University of Western Ontario Music School at the time. And that relationship continued for a very long time, acting as kind of your school. And they used, they had all sorts of interesting academic relationships that are hard to pin down nowadays. But that relationship continued for a very long time into the 1990s. And then in 1997, Dr. Donald Cook had been around for a little bit as the principal of Western Ontario Conservatory of Music and found a way to merge them with the Western Board Music Examining Body, which had a foothold from Manitoba.
That's what happened to Western Board, because you don't hear about that anymore. Okay. I forgot about that.
That merger took place, was inaugurated in 1998 and became Conservatory Canada, giving it a truly national reach. The Western Ontario Conservatory of Music had a reach in Ontario and some of the Atlantic provinces, and so that amalgamated with the Western provinces. And then we've been a close examining body now since 1998, really. Okay,
so just to get myself off the hook for not cluing in on that, I was out of the country from 1998 for a few years. So I missed that step, but my mother, having been a piano teacher, I have her whole teaching library, and I was just looking for something yesterday, and there's a whole set of Western Board books, which I remember using as a kid, just mostly just for sight reading, and then various iterations of the Western Conservatory books.
Right.
And I got a lot of mileage out of those Western Conservatory books when I was a kid,
Yeah, I still use them myself in my teaching too. I've got a whole set of them here.
Yeah, that Albinoni Adagio, I don't know, it goes by so many different names. Starts with that one single note, repeated note. I think it's in like grade 7 or 8. Oh, I just played that thing to death out of the Western book.
That's so neat. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that piece. I have to go back and look for that. Or the 7 or 8 book. Okay.
Yeah, it's, those old books with that kind of big black gesture on the front, like a and a clef and a person. I don't know what it all was.
Yeah, it was quite a modern drawing for its time, I'm sure. That book would have been out in I've seen the 1960s, even the late 1960s, I think those books were first
makes
rated.
Sense, yeah, because I remember my mom always having that set of books, so yeah. Anyway. Sorry to interrupt, but
no, that's the history of the conservatory, really. And then since 1998, just full steam ahead, trying to service exams from coast to coast and keep people interested in exams nowadays. And so then we went through this modernization process over the last 2 decades to to stay relevant, really. And that's something I feel we're getting a good foothold on now.
Yeah, continually. Yeah. Well, I remember being excited about the like the more jazz pop type exams that got, what are they called again?
Contemporary idioms.
Contemporary idioms, sorry, yeah. Yeah, that was a really neat introduction. Like, not anything the other big conservatory offered, or still. I guess you can do one pop piece for a study, but.
Yeah, now we kind of, and now we're kind of blowing it open. I mean, you can do quite a bit of pop music even on your classical exam nowadays.
Yeah.
A lot of mix and match options between our two streams. We do offer a traditional classical stream that people can use in that way if they have someone that's a student that's really classically minded, or you can tailor make that one and have the majority of the music still be contemporary styles, but the skills are all familiar and traditional. And then on the contemporary side, the focus is on contemporary repertoire, which is not a hard sell these days for students. But then the skills are more progressive. The skills we look at improvisation, lead sheet reading, the sight reading and ear training we've kind of toned down a little bit, and the technique makes a little more sense than maybe the first couple of iterations of that syllabus. The modes are there and that kind of thing, but they make a lot more sense, and there's not a daunting amount of them. So that early on, it's more really of a pop rock syllabus. And then by the time we get to level 6, then we get more into the more atmospheric jazz modes and things and that kind of stuff. So it's
cool. Okay.
Teachers love it because they can go and start at level 1 or 2 with a student and learn right alongside them. They'll still be a step ahead of their student.
Right.
And by the time you get to level 6, you become a proficient improviser yourself using our improvisation manual, which is the American Popular Piano Etude series.
Right. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, well, I need to get me some students so I can put them in. Or maybe I should just do the exams myself.
Wouldn't that be fun, eh? Would you want to go back and do exams again? Wow.
Just start all over again. Contemporary idioms. Yeah, so you came to this in 2014 as executive director.
Mm-hmm.
And so the changes that have happened in these last 8 years or so, are they mostly about the syllabus or the setup of the exams? Or
yeah, I think it was making them more accessible. I mean, there's no secret that it's harder to get students to do exams these days. They don't have the time. They learn in these short bursts of curiosity. They're so overscheduled. They're busy doing other things.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in 2008, it was fashionable for every young person to have a smartphone, and that really changed things. You can just see it when you chart our exam numbers. The big drop was in 2008, 2009, where all of a sudden students were spending an hour on that smartphone a night, texting or whatever it is they do there.
Facebook and all that.
Watching YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, these fun things we're doing right now. And here we are adopting the technology, which is great, but that really we had to thin out the workload, number one, because we were always a conservatory up until this point, the last few years, where our requirements took a lot of time.
Yeah.
This would work in a rural setting where there weren't so many distractions, where students, they lived in a certain environment where they could practice a half hour or an hour a day, these kind of exams at intermediate level. Whereas nowadays it's just harder and harder to find. So we still have progressive requirements, but we thinned out the requirements a little bit to make them a little less daunting so that students could still sit an exam in one sitting. We blew open the repertoire to include all sorts of contemporary music, all sorts of things that aren't on our lists. We have our syllabus lists, but then teachers are always emailing us and showing us pieces. Could we use this for level 5? Could we use this for grade 6? And we allow that. We do those free approvals. So again, making just accessible so you can customize this exam experience for the student a little bit more. Teacher has things in their library. Students don't want to have to buy a ton of books. We can accommodate all that kind of stuff by the flexibility.
But we want them to buy books, especially the piano music she wrote anthologies for the elementary level.
Yes.
Sorry.
We do want them to buy all those books, yeah. Which is why I ordered 2 of them.
Ooh,
So I can lend one out at a time and still have my reference copy.
Awesome.
Well, great books, by the way. I did receive these about a month ago now from your publisher, Derek Oger, and I'm still halfway through reading the second one. But it's just wonderful stuff, really inventive, and a lot of these pieces are already on our classical piano syllabus lists. But what we've said is that anything in these books, we're starting to endorse specific books now and say anything in these books, because yours are already graded, They're just rubber stamp. People don't even have to call us and get an approval on it. They can just use them in an exam. So those are the kind of things that we're doing with the exams to make them more accessible, make them more fun to use. And of course, we have the most friendly examiners on the planet.
Amazing. Some pretty hot theory examiners as well, as far as I know. So I know the theory exams are, it's possible to do, like you don't have to go to a center anymore, and you can kind of choose when you want to do it. And that's an amazing offering, I think. For the practical exams, how is that? Is it the same situation?
I mean, yeah, so with Flex Theory, like you said, it's all by Flex Theory now. Students can sign up for a theory exam whenever they're ready. They don't have to wait and do it at a specific time of the year.
Right.
So we've got protocols in place where students can even proctor these exams from their own home now, as long as they have a relative or someone close to them willing to invigilate it for the student. And with digital technology, scanning things back and forth over email is so much more convenient for everyone rather than mails and things getting lost in the mail. So that's one thing. But on the practical side, since 2007, when we launched e-exams, that suddenly said, okay, you can sign up for a practical exam with 2 weeks notice any time of the year. And we have a piece of software that we can give you that links two digital pianos together so that a student can play and an examiner anywhere else in the world using the internet can hear exactly what the student's playing coming out of the speakers of their digital piano. So you're sharing sounds effectively.
Oh my gosh.
And of course, and with the pandemic, that's taught us that more people can do that. And of course, now we use Zoom and Musicology app to connect digital pianos and do those exams that way from the comfort of students' homes even. So it's just beyond flex scheduling, and our traditional exam sessions are starting to become a thing of the past. And this June, we're going to see probably fewer than half of our students register for a June session exam on a specific date. And more than half our students are going to be scheduling these at some time from April to September and even beyond.
That is so cutting edge, amazing, game changing, mind-boggling. So
yeah, it's mind-boggling for us too. We have to figure out how to schedule all these.
Yeah, I guess, and get the examiners in. But just for people who don't know about the Canadian exam systems, like we've been very used to, like twice a year originally, you could sign up to do. Then summer sessions became a thing. I know at some point Royal Conservatory added a few centers in April.
Yeah.
I don't know how that evolved with you, but like that it can just be at your convenience. That makes so much sense in this world.
Yeah, absolutely. And students, they really can wait to the last minute to register, which, a lot of people appreciate that.
Yeah.
So just that ultimate flexibility, making it more user friendly. We have other plans to go even further than the traditional certificate exam that we're going in the next couple of weeks to a couple of months. That's a couple of things there, but yeah, we have more things there that we're toying with to make the experience, to get an assessment, to feel a part of something.
Yeah. Have a goal.
Your music. Yeah, have a goal. Good for teachers. Teachers like students to have goals, and
it's crucial.
Families still like it. It gets the practicing happen. So,
and there still is the possibility of getting high school credits, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Any of our exams, practical theory, it's the same arrangement that people are used to with the Royal Conservatory, for example. And we still have agreements in all provinces.
Awesome. Yeah.
The only one is Manitoba. Manitoba, we have an agreement. Students can register the credit, but they actually don't get credit for it anymore in Manitoba. They don't recognize it. They'll register for them. So that's a bit of a bummer. But that could be the way to keep going in other provinces too, and we'll see.
No, I hope not.
No.
So, yeah, that's so fantastic. So I want to just switch gears a little bit to this whole business of, guess what? Women were composers. Did you, like the rest of us, kind of believe that lie that we've all been taught? But, composers, those are mainly men. Like women, if they composed, they weren't so good.
Yeah, I guess that's interesting. I suppose I didn't give it much thought. I don't feel I was ever taught that. I was taught by early on music history, music theory as a kid by the Sisters of St. Joseph here in Thunder Bay.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
And although, so there was always, like most of us, I suppose, in piano lessons, specifically, you had female teachers.
Yeah.
And they would always talk about these other female composers. But of course, 90% of the diet we had were based on male composers, having to memorize facts, figures, and too. And the music library was full of music by male composers. And then we talked about Heather Morrison earlier. She runs a piano literature course at Lakehead that I took many years ago, and she included many examples by female composers. And so I always knew that, or always felt that female composers were out there. I just didn't know the extent to how, because there has been a suppression. And so later on, when I started playing new music, I got to work with a couple of great composers. Number one's a good friend of mine, Sylvia Rickard, in Victoria, BC, who was a disciple, let's say, of Jean Coulthard.
Okay.
And so I performed a piece of hers called Negaraboshi a number of years ago. And it was neat to work in detail closely with the composer to figure out certain nuance and really get inside their minds and get inside their creativity. And then a similar experience I had with a local composer here in Thunder Bay, Darlene Chappelle Reed. And she created a piece for amplified piano where the piano was prepared quite heavily, and I was working with the piano, but then she was also monitoring me, amplifying me through microphones on the side. So we were kind of working together.
Wow.
Really heavy creative stuff. And so with both of those, I didn't think anything differently because these were women composers. But
Right.
as this movement over the last couple of years has become, hey, look at all of this music that's been out there. It's incredible. It's like, well, yeah, of course, I know that. Just because, I've had that experience with women and creating or, performing their music. And you see how creative they are and how worthwhile it is and how exciting it is, and the audiences react. It's not like this just started in the last few years.
Right.
This has been possible throughout time, as long as man's been alive. Women have had the ability to do this. And so it's great to finally see people like yourself unearthing this music, getting it published, getting it performed. And for me, it just resonated right away. Yeah, of course, I know this can happen. It's not some modern phenomenon. It's always been this way. So we just have to get up to speed with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going back to what you said to start this answer. Like, yeah, I'm not saying that necessarily I was taught, but that was really that was the story that we just all bought into. Like, there was just no question that you look further than this canon of these guys. There just was no.
Certainly,
Right.
yeah, and again, that's just the way it was. And I remember even hearing, well, the only composers that really get remembered are the ones who contributed in a way that push the boundaries so that we do remember them. And, I can't agree with that any longer.
Yeah.
And even at Lakehead, there were, a lot of us carrying around Fanny Mendelssohn and things like this, and Hildegard von Bingen. I had another friend, too, who was in music. She was an elderly lady, not a musician at all. She just wanted to take courses, and she was a very creative individual. I remember when she had a party where we would come and just celebrate women by Canadian composers, music by women composers historically. So she was way ahead of her time.
Awesome.
But I remember that clearly too. She was just sending us all emails and phone calls in advance, trying to figure out who all these people. She'd be at the library looking for vinyl records of Von Bingen and other
Wow.
that she had to find.
What a renegade.
She was a renegade.
Yeah. Fantastic. So, the Conservatory Canada initiatives in bringing music composed by women to the forefront, that's just the most exciting thing and such a game changer. So I'd love it if you could kind of outline the various kind of prongs that the initiatives that you've been.
Yeah, it's amazing how this all came together. Of course, it really does feel it to me, and I don't know, but once the pandemic hit, I know the seeds had been sown just before the pandemic. I had a couple people reach out to me. One was Olivia Adams, the other was Cecile Desrosiers, both in Ottawa, who kind of reached out to me around the same time to hit me over the head a little bit. Hey, there's this music out there, and when are we going to start including it on, in the classical piano syllabus? I thought, yeah, okay, let's talk about this. So started having those discussions. And then after a while, Eleanor Gummer of One Eye Publications, was published a couple of books there late last year, which finally we had something tangible to go by other than just LP. And then at the CFMTA convention last July in 2021, we became aware of your work suddenly. And so it's been nice to bring the four of you together.
Yeah.
And so what we did back in the summer, I guess in August, shortly after that CF convention, was put the material from the four of you together in a large blog post that told studio teachers, here's where you can find listings of this music. Here's where you can find copies of the scores on IMSLP. Here's where you can order hard publications that your students are going to like, and you'll be able to see the music in modern notation that makes sense to teach the kids. Here are biographical examples. Here's a link to piano music she wrote. Here's a link to Cécile de Rosier's presentation at CFMTA on our YouTube channel, and made them aware of all these things. And that, of course, that document's going to stick on our website. And that sort of serves our studio teachers as, here's where all that information is located. And then leading up to that, we worked with Cécile very closely to add 250 titles, mostly women composers, but also some BIPOC composers to our classical piano syllabus for grades 1 to 10. And we're shortly going to add a whole bunch to the associate diploma too in the coming weeks. So that allowed students and teachers to finally say, hey, okay, here's all the music there. Here's where we access it, use it on exams. And of course, as other volumes come out, send us your approvals that you want to use this piece for this exam. We're going to keep adding to those lists. I assume we're adding another 100 or 200 titles in the next year here as well to those lists. So that just helps us promote the music, promote inclusivity, promote gender equality. It's the way it ought to be. It's the way it always should have been.
Right.
And, we have a lot of catching up to do. So we're excited to promote this with a number of events and webinars and things like that as well.
Yeah, keeping at it with those webinars and whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise the teachers, many of them are just isolated out there somewhere in the wilds of Canada in their studio. And yeah, but now with all this technology we can use and what you're offering,
yeah,
it's so brilliant for linking into these ideas. As a sometime adjudicator, I've been a little frustrated. Like even last year, I think I counted up, like there were 32 different performers in this one festival, and 3 of them performed something composed by women. And I just, and then another festival, I sort of had a similar ratio. And I couldn't really understand why, because for me, I don't necessarily stick with just things in the syllabus or just things in the books. But I guess I was realizing that a lot of teachers do, like they want to just stick with what's sanctioned, for festival prepares you for exams, so it's going to be the same repertoire, so you have to use the exam repertoire. The exam syllabus for some conservatories maybe low in that ratio of female composers, so that you've added so much to your syllabus in the last couple of weeks. Oh, it's such a game changer. So I hope as an adjudicator, even this coming adjudicating season, maybe we'll start to see some change.
Yeah. Well, in your publications too, I mean, you have 2 volumes up now. You're doing more books as well?
Yeah. We'll go to intermediate level next. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're doing our best to promote that. I think once those get in the hands of teachers, I mean, I'm already showing it to my students. I have been for months, and they're eating it up. They're just loving it.
Awesome.
So, I think, it's just a matter of time before we start seeing those in festivals. We're already seeing them in the online exams we've been holding over the last few months.
Awesome. Fantastic.
So, a breath of new life. And
yay.
The music's just fantastic, though. That's what I like. Between you and Eleanor, the 2 people who have been publishing and doing, most of the work here and getting this work, getting the finished versions in our hands.
Yeah.
You picked up some real gems all around there.
Yeah.
You could almost just build a whole student's learning for the year just based on these new books that have come out. It's really wonderful.
I sometimes fantasize, like, if I were to go back to my, say, ARCT exam, which was all men, what could I build it of if I just did, the whole thing is all women, or my jury, third year jury at Western, how would that have been if it were just all one gender but a different gender? It's sort of fun to imagine that.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I talked yesterday to a teacher elsewhere in Canada who also has my books, and she said that she has a little 10-year-old student who, when she was just showing her the book, the kid just grabbed it. It's like, let me look at this.
Well, and it's attractive too. I mean, the music's
Yeah.
great. You want to get their hands on the music, but it's just something about the way you and Deb put that together at One Less Music to make it look attractive as well. Beautifully laid out, beautiful cover art.
Yeah, Deborah Wallace has a good designer, Scott. So
yeah,
but also those paintings. That was something I found, and that's it. Yeah. So as you continue, do you have continuing ideas, like you say, continuing to build the syllabus out?
Yeah, continuing to add the music. Of course, the contemporary side of things, there's a lot of female representation there, but just on the classical historical side, we're going to keep adding titles there. And to me, really, the thing that makes the most sense is to go back to our history courses.
Yes.
And build in the stuff that really, to me, is missing. And so we actually have I'm starting to develop a concrete plan for, we're working with someone to create these modules that can get added to that syllabi for history 5, 6, and 7, so that students can study these composers as part of that curriculum to balance out what they're learning with some materials. And, that would be part of the requirements, hopefully within the next couple of years.
That's so brilliant.
Yeah. And then, of course, just the outreach. There's going to be a webinar sometime in a couple of weeks, I guess, that we're going to talk about articulation and performance practice, phrasing. Cecile and Olivia are going to put that one on.
Nice.
And Cecile's going to be playing from the harpsichord as well as the piano and trying to apply the two. So all sorts of workshops like that. I know you've already joined us for a really great workshop there 3 weeks ago or so now. More of the same like that, just more outreach for teachers. They want to hear more about this music. They want to celebrate it more. And so we're happy to sort of, fit that bill and provide that audience and keep us connected while we're also isolated the last couple of years and celebrate the diversity that we have here.
Right. Especially in this country. So much beautiful richness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds so great. I just get so excited talking with you. Calm down. So what about for you personally? You say you've made your way through part of those piano music she wrote anthologies, but have you got any particular connection with any historical women composers that you've kind of more recently discovered?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm far from an expert. I'm just spending time organizing the webinars, getting the vision going, getting these pieces out there. I haven't had a lot of time to dive into it, but from what I've seen, what I like doing, I'm actually sitting at my keyboard right now, my digital piano. And
you could play something.
I love throwing on the harpsichord sound, and I keep getting, at the beginning of all these books that you and Eleanor have published, is always the three Elizabeths, I call them. Elizabeth Turner, Elisabetta de Gambarini, both English people, right, from England, and then Elisabeth Zacca de la Guerre. Putting on the harpsichord sound and playing their music is really wonderful. And there's one piece I keep coming back to called The Tambourin by Gambarini.
Yeah.
And you and Eleanor both published it. It sits at the grade 4 level, roughly. And that's one thing that I keep coming back to. It's still very early for me, but this, I'll turn this on for a second. And why don't I go to, I'll go a sharper harpsichord. I'll just play a little bit of this.
I caught it.
Hear what this is at. It's just exciting. That's what this is.
It's a good little piece, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's got so much challenge in it for that level, with the left hand shifting around, like the musette, the Bach D major musette.
You referenced that in that webinar. So you said that, and it made sense to me right away. You've got this drone in the left hand.
Yeah.
Hitting on like a drum. Yeah. So
Cool.
that's what I'm most interested in, but still I haven't been through it enough many times and haven't taught enough of it yet until for it really to sink in. So those are just my initial impressions right now. The three Elizabeths
Yeah.
stand out to me, and this is very historic for those that don't know the music. This is going back to the 1700s,
Yeah.
early 1700s, in fact. So around the time of Bach, or J.S. Bach, really, and his sons,
Yeah.
in sort of that, some of it even pretty classic.
I think I mentioned this recently in whatever webinar. Um, when I was playing some Bach French suites recently, and I just thought, I wonder if Bach knew the music of Elizabeth and Jacques de la Garde, because something about it just reminded me, now that I know of her, I don't know, like he was a little bit after her, so
But you can feel the connection there.
a little bit later than her, so yeah, it'd be
Yeah.
interesting maybe to talk to Cecile about that.
Well, and then musicologists, they've got a lot of work to do now to now
Right.
build these connections to these women, and you know, hopefully we see these history texts be rewritten, and not just that. Okay, here, you know, here's a topics course at university in music history, and we're going to talk about women's music in the 1700s. But you know, let's build it right into the survey courses, and that's what we hope to do with the conservatory, so that students, by the time they get to university, you know, this will just be accepted. This is what we study.
Normal.
And they can ask questions of their professors. Hey, what about this composer? What about this composer?
Who's that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. Yes. So it's just normal.
Normalize.
Yeah. Yeah.
Normalize.
There's this funny way, because I have this background of half Latvian, and the way they use the word normal. Not normal. So, not normal. It means a lot of things, but anyway. And then there's, of course, the opposite, nenormal, which is an insult. But anyway.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good. I have Italian blood. So,
yeah.
But I don't understand it so much.
Is there anything else that you want to tell us about regarding Conservatory Canada, or this whole...
Yeah, so those that are, you know, you're studio teaching, you're using exams with your students, you're thinking about it, you know, give us a shot. If you don't know anything about us, go to conservatorycanada.ca. Have a look around the learning tab and some of the syllabus pages there. We have some video tutorials posted. We hold a Friday webinar every Friday at 12 noon Eastern on a variety of pedagogical topics. And a number of people joining us in the last, well, we've been running that since September. And in the last month, that audience is really starting to grow, which is really great. And all you have to do is register. You'll get on our email list. You can email me, Derek, D-E-R-E-K, at conservatorycanada.ca, and just ask to be on the email list. And then you'll get an email from me every couple of weeks with the latest registration links for the upcoming webinars or teacher meetings. You can also join our Conservatory Canada Teacher Facebook page if you happen to like social media and be on Facebook, and you'll get all the information there as well. And just dive in and see what you think. And if you like what you see, you email me and ask me how you can get more involved with your students in Conservatory Canada. I think you'll like what you see. We have the friendliest exam on the planet. And it's not so much about, you know, assessing, and I mean, it is about assessing, but that's not the focus. The focus is about giving something to the students, giving something that's relevant to their social experience. It's a lot different than when we grew up. And that's the kind of conservatory that we're trying to be.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we're not limited to just Canadians taking exams or getting involved with Conservatory Canada. Like, it's now possible through the interwebs. You could take an exam if you live in Denmark, say.
Yeah, we've done exams from Mexico. We've done exams from Saudi Arabia in the last few years. We've done exams from the United States from time to time, Jamaica. So we do have pockets of interest. We do hear students do exams in China actually right now through a group called the United States Music Certification Exams. That's a different syllabus altogether. But yeah, we have experience all over the world. So if any of you are checking in from Denmark, Norway, Sweden, the US, wherever you are.
I do have students in Denmark, so that's why I mentioned Denmark.
That's exciting.
I teach in Denmark and Canada.
Okay, yeah, because we are certainly looking to be global, and I mean, we were always online anyway doing exams. We were capable of doing that a long time ago, but the pandemic's really sort of solidified that for us now, that we can be global and hear students around the world. Yeah.
Oh, so good. So wonderful. Are there any questions from all of you who are coming and going and listening? Any questions for Derek? I, in the meantime, wanted to tell you, if I could just remember, next week, isn't it great that your Friday webinars, by the way, are at noon, and Piano Music She Wrote Instagram Lives are at 2, so people can hit both of them.
It's a great way to connect on Fridays, isn't it? Friday
It somehow happened that way, accidentally. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to next week's Instagram Live is with Roisin Marr, who's one of the co-directors of the Finding a Voice festival in Ireland. The following week, we have a wonderful pianist, French pianist, who's based in Texas right now, Jeanne Houret. She's specializing in Melbournice, so she's going to tell us all things Melbournice.
One of the few composers we would see in conservatory books back in the 1980s, 1990s, right?
But I didn't know that Mel meant Mélanie at that time.
Email, you're right. Right.
Yeah. And then the following week, the first Friday in March, there's this gentleman in the UK named Philip Sear, who has a YouTube channel that's got quite a following. And he just in his own house, on his own grand piano, he records tons of videos of music by unknown composers. And much of it is, of course, music by women. So I'm really looking forward to hearing his POV, etc., etc. So many other awesome things coming up. So thank you, Derek, for being your awesome self here today with us.
Oh, thanks. It's great to connect with you here like this in front of an audience. I see a number of people that were on the webinar here with me at noon today are on the call here now.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, and this will be available on our Instagram ongoing. And then it also gets put up on our YouTube channel. Hopefully that's okay with you, Derek. You
oh, yeah, absolutely.
So it's there in perpetuity. We have a playlist of these Instagram chats there on YouTube, Piano Music She Wrote channel. So we're preserved forevermore in this moment we had together. All right.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
And best of luck with future publications. Looking forward to more books.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll hope for those sooner than later. We'll see. And thank you, everyone, for joining and for your interest and your support. And until next time, see you all.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Sandra.
Ciao.